Hi esteemed logicians. Welcome to the Logical Christ channel. In this video, we will undertake a logical reaction on how the Muslim Lantern's video on Arab Apostate confronts Muslim on the age of marriage in Islam. Sit back and relax, we will be back after this short intro.
I have two questions regarding, you know, the iddah in Quran regarding the woman, divorced woman.
Okay.
And there is ayah mentioned that the woman who didn't have the period yet, so it means like they are less than the 13 years, you know. So it means that at that time, the women they get married at very like when they're childlike.
The ex-Muslim is discussing Quran 65:4, which explicitly shows that young girls were married, but it does not mention a 13-year-old.
Now, let me ask a question, because I think we're going to talk about the same claim that it's the most common claim that everyone talks about 24/7, which is the idea of like marriage and the age and all of this story. Now let me ask a question. What is a child? Because you use that term. What is a child?
What is a child? What is that question? A child is a child. I mean, what do you want me to answer you? I'm just asking about this ayah.
In response, the Muslim Lantern poses a nonsensical question about the term child. The ex-Muslim's direct question is whether the Quranic verse confirms child marriage.
So when you say maturity, another term that you used, you're saying a child is someone who's not mature. Now that's all you said. You talked about brain development, which is not correct, like I said, because 25 people who are under 25 with a brain that is not fully developed, women that are under 25 are not children. They're still adults. So it's not about brain development. So what is maturity? Now, what is maturity? I'm going to mention a proposition, and then you can tell me whether you agree or disagree. Now, in every dictionary, in human history, I'll just say this sentence, and then you can comment. In every dictionary in human history, a child was someone who was under the age of puberty. Someone who's under the age of puberty. Now, do you disagree with this definition, or do you agree with this definition? Which is by the way, if you go to any dictionary 40 or 50 years ago, throughout all human history, that was the definition of a child. Someone who is under the age of puberty.
Okay.
Do you agree or disagree?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone reaches puberty, they're no longer...
While it's true that once puberty begins, an individual enters adolescence, but legally, a person under 18 is considered a child in most countries, including many Muslim-majority nations.
But still not adult enough. I mean...
Well, okay, now adult enough and not adult enough, that will also require definition. Where's your standard of determining, okay, this person is an adult or not? Now, you have to give us something. Like, if it's not just based on what you think. What are you using to determine whether a person then, because you're saying adult enough now, so they're adult, but they're not really fully an adult. So what do you use to determine whether something has become an adult or not?
He can make decisions. He is mature enough to understand. Even I told you, even the organs and the brain are completed. So he can.
Okay, so you believe.
Okay,
so you believe. Sure. So you're telling me everyone watching this, every woman watching this video right now under the age of 25 is a child. Every 24-year-old, 23-year-old, 22-year-old, 21-year, the brain is not full.
The Muslim Lantern obviously confused the ex-Muslim by conflating the biological and legal definitions of a child. The Muslim was not honest enough to clarify that his question pertained to the legal definition of a child, which is relevant since marriage is a legal matter.
Because you start with me with different definition of maturity and child, you know.
I told you an adult is someone who reaches the age of puberty. I told you that is in every dictionary. You said, no, I disagree.
Okay, because you're taking me away from the subject. It's very simple.
No, I'm not
Even
taking.
the
No, I'm not taking you away from the subject, because your subject is about marriage.
As pointed out, the ex-Muslima correctly understands that the Muslim lantern confused her with a biological definition of a child, thus sidestepping the core issue of child marriage.
Person is 17 years old. If a person is 17 years old, 364 days, 23 hours and 59 minutes, according to you, they're a child. But after 1 minute, they become an adult magically. I don't accept that. This idea of you become an adult when you hit the age of 18, just because the West told you become an adult when you hit the age of 18. Not all the West, by the way. It's like overwhelming majority of the world right now. It doesn't say the age of consent is 18.
The Muslim lantern then further confused the ex-Muslima by introducing the concept of the age of consent.
The overwhelming majority of the world right now is 16. You look at the USA even, you have states that has it as 16, 15, 14, with judge and parental agreement. There are child marriages happening in California every year, hundreds of thousands. You can just research it right now in California, in the US. I'm not even talking about.
While California has laws intended to protect minors, child marriage remains a legal reality due to existing loopholes, and advocacy groups are actively working to end this practice. However, this problem in California does not answer the ex-Muslima's original question about the Quran.
I'm not trying to put you in a corner. I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to unbrainwash you, with all the respect. What do I mean by that? You are brainwashed right now to think that an adult is someone who's 18 years old. And why am I giving you these examples? 17, 364 days and 23 hours and 59 minutes. I'm trying to make you understand common sense. You just said common sense. I'm giving you an example. It's not common sense to say when someone is 17 years old, 364 days and 23 hours and 59 minutes is a child, but 1 minute later they become an adult. That's not common sense. Common sense is to look at case-by-case scenario.
In terms of common sense, the Muslim lantern should not justify child marriage described in the Quran. Neither the actions of the Prophet Muhammad nor the idea that child marriage is a case-by-case issue. At any extent, child marriage practices are not acceptable.
In history, we don't apply fallacies of presentism. Presentism is to apply your current day modern standards on the past. Past was different. They had different things. We don't apply things on the past the way we do today. Now, when we look historically, an adult was always someone who is over the age of puberty. That was always the case. We're not going to change it today just because some people feel a certain...
It is a fact that child marriage is immoral and should be condemned, regardless of historical context or religious beliefs. Child marriage is not acceptable. But the Muslim lantern believes that child marriage was acceptable in the past, even today.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to add one more thing and then you can continue with your question. If we agree that a child is someone who's under the age of puberty, if we both agree on this, do women hit puberty before the age of 13?
Yes, some.
Okay, then to say the statement that 13 years old equals child is not correct. Because women can reach puberty at even the age of 8, from 8 to 14. By the way, who says that is the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK. It's not my...
It is true that it is normal for puberty to begin in girls between the ages of 8 and 13. However, this biological fact should not be confused with the legal definition that a child is anyone under 18, a concept enshrined in the Children's Acts of many countries.
My stats. I'm not the one who's saying this.
Yes.
They can be as early as 8 years old. They can be as early, which is called early puberty, can be as early as 8 years old. And it can be as late as 14. Okay? Yes. But to say that someone is 13 years old, therefore they are a child, I'm saying I disagree with that definition. Okay? That's why I asked you this question to begin with. Now you can go ahead and say what you want. Since we clarified who a child is, and 13 does not necessitate a child.
The Muslim lantern admittedly believes that even if a girl is 8 years old, she is no longer a child as long as she has hit puberty. This shows how desperate some Muslims are, holding on to this belief simply to defend child marriage in the Quran.
Yeah, there are the Islamic contract of marriage, the Aqd al-Nikah, as you know in Arabic, a marriage contract. Yeah. That marriage contract doesn't need an age. You can do it with a baby, no problem.
After all the age shuffling, The Muslim lantern eventually admits that in Islam, child marriage is permitted, and a guardian can even execute a marriage contract even for a baby girl.
Difference between doing a marriage contract and having intercourse. Now, there are many people who do a marriage contract with someone who's abroad. Like, doing a marriage contract does not necessitate physical intercourse. So we have to separate these things now. Now, we don't misunderstand the idea of marriage. We don't misunderstand the idea of marriage in the West and apply it to Islam. What does that mean? It means I can do aqd al-nikah with someone without dukhul, without consummation of the marriage.
Why would you want to do that?
The Muslim lantern further justifies child marriage by separating the marriage contract from sexual intercourse. He forgets that the issue is child marriage itself, which is objectively immoral even without intimacy.
Why would you want to do that? The answer to that question is that there are people, and this is what Islamic scholars have talked about for hundreds of years. They said there are, for example, let's say a father sees a very great person. Okay, someone who he knows if he leaves, someone else will take that person. Then he'll get married to someone else. He wants to secure that person in a way. So he would ask him to do a marriage contract with his daughter, he's as the father, until his daughter reaches the age of puberty, and then able to consummate the marriage. So he wants to make sure that he secures that person. That's an example, one example. I'll give you more examples. Another example, let's say a father is very poor. He cannot take financial responsibility of his daughter. So his daughter is still not ready yet for consummation. So he finds a man and he gives him this marriage contract with him so he can take care financially of her. And then he will wait until she reaches the age of puberty, and then the consummation will take place.
The Muslim lantern's example is even worse. It can be described as child selling. In reality, in Arab and Islamic traditions, the custom is that the man asks the father of the daughter for her hand in marriage, not the other way around. Perhaps the Muslim lantern knows of a father who would sell his daughter into marriage, which would be even more immoral.
For the father doing a marriage contract for his daughter, if she's under the age of puberty, if she's not ready yet, under the age of puberty or not ready for consummation, there are conditions. First, it's only the fathers can do it. Only the father, not the grandfather, not the brother, not the uncle, nobody else. Only the father can do this. Number two, they would say there has to be a benefit for the kid. So this contract that is going to be done has to be in the benefit of the child long term. Cannot be done for other reasons. The father doesn't have the capacity to do it for just because.
The Muslim lantern fails to realize that no good father would execute a marriage contract for his daughter. A loving father would allow his daughter to make that decision for herself. Ultimately, a good father would do his best to support his daughter's every need, not just find someone else to provide for her.
He likes to do it.
Yes,
Third thing is, Imam Shafi'i mentions, when she reaches the age of puberty or maturity, she's asked if she's okay or not with the marriage. Why? Based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, لا تنكح البكر حتى تستأذن. The virgin or the young girl is not given in marriage until his permission is asked. So Imam Shafi'i said, when she reaches the age of maturity, puberty, then she's asked, based on this hadith narration, is she okay? Or that marriage is not going to continue because her agreement is necessary.
Ironically, he quoted a hadith that contradicts Quran 65:4 about being married. It is also hard to imagine that a girl who was married as a child would be able to refuse her husband after her father has already let her go.
Just like you look at your own kids, that father will look the same way.
There is other fathers, they sell their daughter. No.
I responded to that. You see, you gotta pay attention to what I'm saying. I already told you two things. I said to you first that one of the conditions is the father needs to do it for the benefit of the girl. If he doesn't, I said the judge can break this marriage, can punish the father. It's not up to him to just go do whatever he wants to do. Then I also told you that the girl that is married, the marriage contract without any consummation yet, if she reaches the age of puberty, then she has a right, according to Imam Shafi'i's opinion, to break that. If she's not okay.
So the Muslim lantern is saying that a 6-year-old child who was married, upon reaching age 9 and hitting puberty, becomes an adult and is ready to decide whether her marriage is acceptable or not. How can a right-minded person accept this logic?
Sorry?
Do you believe that a girl who's 14 years old, she can decide her future with the man that she's gonna get married to and raise children with, and the one who is enough for
It's
her
not up to
at
her to
that
decide
age, at the
alone.
age of 14?
Let me answer you. It's not for her to decide alone. That's why Islam has a system called the wali system, which is even if the girl agrees, the father or the wali, the guardian has to agree, because it's that father or guardian or wali, he's experienced in life. No, women are not men, so they don't understand the psychology of men, but men understand the psychology of men, which is why the wali is there. So the wali will look, he will see, okay, the girl might accept him, but that doesn't mean that he's a good guy. The father is there, he will look, he will do investigation, research, ask him question, investigation.
The conclusion: we learn that child marriage is acceptable in Islam. The Muslim Lantern even stressed that a father can execute a marriage contract for his daughter. The ex-Muslima, who was a mother, could not believe what she learned from the Muslim Lantern, who explained that child marriage is acceptable in Islam with some unrealistic safeguards for the child bride. The Muslim Lantern also defined a child as someone who has not yet reached puberty. We will test the definition against Quran 65:4 to see if it holds up in the context of child marriage. The context of Quran 65:4 is about divorce in Islam, a command given by Allah to Muslims to ensure a divorced girl is not pregnant from her ex-husband before she can remarry. It states, "And those who no longer expect menstruation among your women, if you doubt, then their period is 3 months, and those who have not menstruated." Clearly, the Quranic verse specifically mentions those who have not menstruated yet. These are children who have been married and have obviously had intercourse with their ex-husbands. By the Muslim Lantern standard, this is acceptable as long as the child hits puberty. It's hard to imagine how men in the 7th century could determine if a child had hit puberty. Check my logical arguments about child marriage in the link above. And here's Dr. David Wood about child marriage in Islam.
I just read an article in the Washington Post titled, "6-Year-Old Afghan Girl Reportedly Sold in Marriage." Did you know that child marriage has nothing to do with Islam and even violates the teachings of Islam? Let's read some excerpts. Kabul. A 6-year-old girl in rural Afghanistan was reportedly sold in marriage recently to a Muslim cleric in his 50s or 60s. She was later rescued and held in a shelter while the man was arrested and jailed, Afghan officials said last week. The incident, which came after several widely publicized cases of young brides being burned or stoned, highlights the enduring tribal practices of child marriage in Afghanistan, often involving abuse. The problem has persisted despite years of public education campaigns, women's activists said, in part because poor parents need the income it brings. A Muslim cleric in his 50s or 60s married a 6-year-old girl. Where have we heard that one before? According to the Washington Post, 50-year-old men marrying little girls is a tribal practice. There's a dispute between the man and the family concerning the circumstances, but the police did some investigating and got to the bottom of things. The provincial police chief, Mohammed Andarabi, told the Washington Post that the man, whom he named as Saeed Abdul Karim, had married the girl with the parents' consent in front of witnesses after they accepted food and cash in payment. Later, the man tried to return her, he said, but was seized by residents and turned over to the police. The girl is safe. She has not been molested, Andarabi said. Both Karim and the girl's father have been arrested for questioning, he said. Provincial officials said the girl had been taken to a women's shelter in the provincial capital. And now we get to the defense of Islam. Afghan women's rights leaders said that whatever the nature of the arrangement, it was against both Afghan law and Islam, the national religion. They said they were discouraged that their efforts to curb bride selling and abuse had not met with more success after 15 years of Western-backed democracy and rights promotion. Notice 2 things. 1, 50-some-year-old men marrying little girls is against Islam. Odd that a Muslim cleric didn't know that. 2, women's rights leaders are discouraged because 15 years of Western-backed rights promotion hasn't curbed the practice. If child marriage is against Islam, why would Westerners be the ones promoting the rights issue? Why wouldn't it come from Islam itself? People who aren't completely clueless already know the answer. Child marriage isn't against Islam. Child marriage is embedded in Islam. Sahih Muslim 3480. It was narrated that Aisha said, The Prophet married me when I was 6 years old and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9 years old. Sahih Muslim 3482. It was narrated from Aisha that the Messenger of Allah married her when she was 6 years old and consummated the marriage with her when she was 9 years old, and he died when she was 18 years old. Surah 33 verse 21 of the Quran says that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for Muslims. So if Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl when he was 50 years old, and Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for Muslims, is child marriage simply a tribal practice? No, it's a religious practice. And that's why it's so difficult for Westerners to change the practice. When Western organizations say, you Muslims shouldn't be marrying off your young daughters, Afghan men are hearing, we know better than Allah and Muhammad, and they can't take that seriously as long as Allah and Muhammad are their authorities. Wouldn't this article have been far more interesting if the writers had said, there's a problem with child marriage in the Muslim world. The problem persists because Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for Muslims and Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl. This is why the Washington Post and all other news outlets are launching a full-scale media campaign to convince Muslims that the Quran is not the word of God, that Muhammad is not a true prophet, and that no one should take Muhammad as a pattern of conduct ever. The fact that it would be completely unthinkable to us for news sites to say something like that, to tell the truth and adopt a plan that could potentially help save little girls from being married off, speaks volumes about how little confidence we have in them. I think I feel an entire series of videos on child marriage in Islam coming on. How does next week sound?
I hope you learned from this video. Comment down below for your thoughts on how the Muslim Lanterns video on Arab Apostate confronts Muslim on the age of marriage in Islam. Until next time.
Thinking with Logical Christ.